gathering the various candidates who are in attendance today. Thank you. The goal of this event is to give our congregation a chance to participate in the civic society of Oakland County and state of Michigan. As Muslims, we have a duty to be civically engaged, and our religion teaches us to be involved in our local communities, to engage with the people and promote goodness, as well as prevent harm and evil. What happens in Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, West Bloomfield, Troy, Farmington, Pontiac, it affects us all. And just like every other American, our community is impacted by that and cares about a diverse array of issues, including but not limited to roads and infrastructure, healthcare, education, crime, taxes, and of course, foreign policy. At the same time, our congregation wants to be heard on these issues, and for that we need and must engage with the candidates, elected officials, and local and state governments. This is the purpose of this event. We will hopefully be joined by many candidates who are running for the State House, State Senate, and US Congress. The candidates we'll be hearing from today are running in Michigan's 11th Congressional District and many other state and Senate districts. I want to thank all of you who RSVP'd and took the time to attend today. Our community is very grateful for your time and willingness to engage with us. Before I hand off the mic to our wonderful moderators, there are a few disclaimers that I need to address first, and it is really important. This event is not an endorsement of any candidate or party. We are simply providing a platform for all candidates to speak to our community. Second, this event is strictly a nonpartisan event. MUC and engaged staff are attending and participating in a strictly nonpartisan and non-endorsed capacity. And the third is that for the candidates, we request you do not advertise your campaign, but you can leave the pamphlets in the back and we can use, inshallah, we use that. Thank you all for your time, and please give me a warm welcome to our moderators who have dedicated their evening to help facilitate this event. Thank you. And before I start further, if you can all stand up, we can do a Pledge of Allegiance, and from there we can start the program, inshallah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. Bismillah, I begin in the name of God. My name is Ali Allam. I am currently a first-year student at Wayne State University studying political science. I've done a lot of work in the Muslim community to try and increase civic engagement, making sure we're getting people out to vote, young people as well. Really essential that we're having a stake in our democracy. So really excited to be moderating tonight alongside Khalidima. So I'll let her introduce herself.
Thank you, Ali. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. My name is Dima Al-Gamal. I am a member at the Unity Center, a volunteer, and a member of the Civic Engagement Committee for years. It's been a pleasure to be here today in my capacity as in my other life. I'm the Director of Capital Improvement Planning of Great Lakes Water Authority. So when Dr. Zaidi said infrastructure, that really hits hard. Infrastructure means a lot. We all are here to listen to you. We're happy that you're here, and I know, as you can see, we have a taping of the event. We will be sharing it with the rest of the community, so those who couldn't have the opportunity to be here today, they will be listening to what you're going to say. We're very excited to have you today. A couple of housekeeping items. We're going to have each candidate come to the podium. There will be introduce yourself, the first question. What is your district and why are you running? You'll get 2 minutes. 2 full minutes, and then we'll have 3 questions, also 2 full minutes and, for each question, and then we'll have a 1 minute for closing, whatever you would like to kind of close with, and that would be it. And then we're going to be also talking in between races about statewide and local proposals so that our community is aware of what is going to be on their ballots. We will break for Maghrib prayer at 7 o'clock, around 7 o'clock, because Maghrib prayer is 7:15. You're welcome to go upstairs and watch, or you would, whatever you would like, you can still commingle and stay here. So we're going to start right now with U.S. U.S. Congressional District 11. And the table? There's a table and there's a mic. So.
Terrific. Can everyone hear me? Oh.
So opening statement, you get 2 minutes. Just introduce yourself, what you're running for, and why you're running.
Terrific. Assalamu alaikum. My name's Mark Ambrose. I'm running for the 11th Congressional District of the U.S. House of Representatives. So what that encompasses is everything south of Clarkston within Oakland County, all the way to the border with Detroit. There's a little bit of a carve-out. Southfield's not included, and a couple of other towns. Why I'm running. So we have 3 children, and all of our kids suffered tremendously during the pandemic and some of the sort of arbitrary rules that were put upon them in school. And you see that right now with test results. But we saw a lot of issues with socialization with our kids. In particular, I have a child who's autistic. And about 7 months into the pandemic, that's well after Flatten the Curve, I came home and Patrick was lying on our kitchen floor doing sit-ups in front of the laptop computer for his Zoom phys ed class. And I thought, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I had no power to control it. And all of these decisions were being made by people at the executive branch, the governor or the health department, and the legislature didn't have a role in this at all. And I thought, this is wrong. The legislature is supposed to set the rules that we live by. And I wanted to be part of that going forward to make sure that that never happened again. So a little bit of background on me. So I grew up in the area, went to Brother Rice High School. A little bit of background like John James. I went to Brother Rice, then I went to West Point, the U.S. Military Academy, for my undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Science. I received a commission in the Army and served as a tank officer in the Army over in Korea, back here in Kentucky. And then, 30 seconds. Then I went to graduate school at Columbia University, received an MBA, also a Master of International Affairs, and then worked as a banker for about 24 years. So I'm a chartered financial analyst as well. I say that not so you get put to sleep by this, but I just want you to know I have a background that can handle some of the issues of the day. When we're talking about inflation, when we're talking about some of the crises that are going on overseas, these are things I have some background in, and wanted to give people confidence that we'll have thoughtful discussions on those things when I'm elected to Congress. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. We're going to take the first question. I
Sure.
need to put my glasses on. Sorry. So, as of late, global events have been unfolding rather chaotically. With the war in Ukraine, oil prices war, human rights in Asia have been caught public attention. How would you ensure the United States does not abandon the abuses in Yemen, Syria, Palestine, China, India? What is your opinion regarding the role of our government in these countries?
So the United States needs to be a voice, a light in the world, as it has been. Speak out in any international body that we're a part of. The United Nations, we need to speak out against those things. We also, frankly, need to sanction some of those countries that are abusing the rights of people in Yemen, in China, right, with the Uyghurs, right? We need to not turn a blind eye on, especially in China. What we're seeing right now is that we're, frankly, just ignoring it because China is so important to us economically. And I think that's wrong. We need to bring it up every opportunity we have for these international bodies. These people are being discriminated against in Western China. I think that we have a duty to, when we see these things, when we see, what frankly looks like genocide, we need to speak out and sanction those countries that are responsible and not be distracted by some of the other global events, rising oil prices, all of these things. We need, the United States, the foundation is the goodness of who we are, and we need to set that example around the world.
Thank you. The next question is about inflation. So inflation continues to hurt millions of Americans. Price increases from groceries to raw materials are bleeding people financially while wages remain stagnant. What can be done to reduce the impact of inflation on American homes?
So I will tell you, this was avoidable. We did not need to be here at this level of inflation, right? This was bad policy, and we're being told that it was unavoidable global conflict caused by the Russian invasion, all of these things. In Japan at this point, inflation is about 2.5%. In the European Union, the core inflation, if you strip out energy and food, it's about 3.8% versus us at 6.3%. Right? We've made bad policy decisions. For example, back in March of 2021, there was a vote for something called the American Rescue Plan. That was a strictly partisan vote for $1.9 trillion into this economy. There was unproductive spending. The economy was already growing at 6%. And this decision was made strictly on a partisan basis, without a Republican vote, and there were warnings against it by Larry Summers, who was a Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, and he worked in the Obama administration as well. That was disregarded and did that. So no more reckless spending, number one. Number two is we need to produce as much energy as we can in the United States and not go to Venezuela or to Saudi Arabia begging them to produce more. We need to be energy independent. I'm a strong proponent of alternative energy. I drive an electric car, I have for 5 years. But that's not right for everybody right now. And we need to make sure we're not vulnerable to the whims of foreign countries. Last point I would make is that we see a Federal Reserve that's overly politicized. So if you remember a year ago, we heard that, thank you. A year ago we heard that inflation's transitory, right? You heard that from both the administration and members of the Federal Reserve. It was parroted at that point. Absolutely wrong. They should have been raising rates a year ago to start decreasing, to letting some of the air out of this economy, and now they're playing catch up and they're going to put us into a recession at this point to bring down inflation. We need to make sure that they focus strictly on inflation, strictly on maximizing employment, and not political considerations.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So the Muslim vote has become much stronger. Muslim communities have become more aware of their rights and their obligation to vote and see candidates make it to the regulatory platforms. Why should the Muslim community vote for you?
My perception is that the Muslim community's vote is very much like my priorities, right? We prioritize the family, we prioritize law and order. Those are absolute priorities of mine, is to make sure that we honor law enforcement and we make our streets safe for our families and children, that we dedicate whatever we need to for education, and if a school is failing, that we give people the choice to go to an alternative school and not keep kids trapped in a certain school that is failing them. I mean, we saw the test results recently across the districts that were just abysmal. So I think the Muslim community broadly, we see that they are a shining example of success in the U.S. They understand hard work and taking risk. Anyone can succeed in this country. This provides opportunity to people from any background. And I think that's just a wonderful story about the United States and the Muslim community recognizing that and seeing that this is a shining light in the world for any people of any background.
Thank you. And then you got 1 minute for your closing statement.
Oh. So my closing statement, I would say, I don't want to overpromise what a freshman congressman could do, right? So I could be that vote in Congress that's a responsible vote for restoring the economy, for making sure that we have law and order, for making sure that our military stays strong. And another priority of mine is I would like to try to find a cure for autism and make sure we dedicate resources to that. Obviously, it's a very personal priority of mine. I would say the one thing that I've been disappointed by is seeing a lack of accountability within this administration. So if you see failures like 13 Marines and soldiers dying in Afghanistan and nobody loses their job for that, that's horrible. When you see you can't get baby formula on the shelves, why has nobody from the FDA lost their job? Or inflation's out of control, why does their Treasury Secretary still have her job? Those are things that on any committee that I would serve on in the House of Representatives, I would demand accountability and demand that there's a replacement for a person who's failed. Doesn't mean they're a bad person, it's just they have not done a good job.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
we're going to invite up the candidates for House District. Oh, sorry. We're going to invite up Kinan to talk about.
Thank you so much.
I just wanted to talk to you all briefly about some of the ballot proposals that will be on the ballot this election on November 8th. So starting with statewide ballot proposals, don't worry candidates, I'm only going to go through one right now, so I won't eat into your time. So proposal 1 is about amending the state constitution to require annual public financial disclosure reports by legislators and other state officers, and change state legislator term limits to 12 total years in the legislature. This proposed constitutional amendment would require members of the legislature, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, the attorney general, file annual public financial disclosure reports after 2023, including assets, liabilities, income sources, future employment agreements, gifts, travel reimbursements, and positions held in organizations except religious, social, and political organizations, as well as require the legislature to implement but not limit or restrict reporting requirements, and replace the current term limits for state representatives and state senators with a 12-year total limit in any combination between House and Senate, except a person elected to the Senate in 2022 may be elected the number of times allowed when that person became a candidate. That is proposal 1. I encourage you all to read into it more and consider whether you support it or do not.
Thank you, Kinan. We're going to invite up the candidates for House District 56. All right, so whenever you're ready, you get 2 minutes opening statement. Just introduce yourself, what you're running for, and why you're running.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Sharon Mcdonald, and I am running for the state representative in House District 56. That is most of Troy, the western side of Troy, and northeastern Royal Oak, 5 precincts there, 1 precinct in Birmingham, Precinct 3, 1 precinct in Bloomfield Township, Precinct 10, and then all of Clawson. So that's all of the District 56. I decided to run in February. I was very late to the game when I found out that 2 things in 2 days. 1, that there was no one running for my district, and I care very much about our district. And 2, that I was a little late to understand that Roe versus Wade was probably going to be overturned this summer. And the 2 of those hitting me at the same time, I was very concerned, and I decided that I would run for office for those reasons. I've lived in Michigan since I was 8 years old. I was born in New York. And I went to the University of Michigan and have a history degree. I love different cultures. I spent 4 years of my life living in Japan, and have a healthy respect for other cultures. And in my time in Troy, I have been a leader in the fight to save our public library back after the Great Recession, and to recall our mayor who had a lot of problems with accepting people who were diverse and unlike herself in many ways. And then I also exposed our city manager, who was actually in the same party I am, who was embezzling funds, but for some reason was protected for 2 years until he ended up being arrested by the FBI and ended up in federal prison.
You could wrap up your response.
Pardon me?
If you could wrap up.
Okay, did I already go over it? I'm sorry, I just want to say one little thing about schools. When my daughters, we moved to Troy because we adopted my daughters from China, and we wanted them to get a very diverse culture to grow up in, and I started our little elementary schools, our Cultural Connections group, and for 2 years we had culture nights where all of the kids really were proud to show their cultural colors.
Thank you. So we're going to take the first question, and you'll have 2 minutes as well.
Okay, and this time I will watch the timekeeper.
Ali is our timekeeper today. So inflation, with recent news of oil price war in OPEC, gas prices are on the table once again. Michiganders' pockets are suffering. What would you suggest to be done, or what initiative would you endorse to ensure Michiganders' money is well spent and is in the right place?
Well, there are some issues, I think, of priorities of our state government. I am very interested in public education. I'm glad we're spending more on that and that we're spending some of the temporary dollars we have on temporary issues that are important in our schools, such as coming out of the pandemic, helping our students and children adjust to the tough times of dealing with COVID and being learning from home. Also, I think there are some ways we can, right now, keep money in the pockets and wallets of our Michiganders by considering statewide gas tax vacations. And there are some taxes in Michigan that, although I know my opponent is very concerned about taxes, but there are taxes right now in the state of Michigan that could be overturned, such as our pension tax, often called the retirement tax, that for some reason the people in charge are not allowing us to change. So I'm looking forward to my party, the Democrats, getting the gavel in Lansing and having the opportunity to make some big changes in how we run Lansing.
Thank you. The next question. Michigan is voting on Proposal 2 this fall, the Promote the Vote proposal, seeking to enshrine the new expansions of voting accessibility in the Michigan Constitution. What are your thoughts on Proposal 2?
I have always believed that our foundational right in America is to vote when we are citizens. It's very important to me, and all my life I've wondered why we make it so very difficult to vote. I was a fan of Voters Not Politicians, the group that back in 2018 ran the first Voters Not Politicians group that its goal was to redistrict so that we would have fairer votes, and its other goal was to make it as easy as possible for people to vote. And that is what a democracy is about, that all of us get to vote as easily and simply as possible, and that there are as few obstacles as possible in front of older people and every person, working people who can't take the day off to vote or can't even take an hour off to vote and sometimes miss voting. So let's have voting be as simple as possible and as accessible by everyone as possible.
Thank you for that answer. And the last question is going to be also around the community here. Why should the Muslim community vote for you?
I think that I have, even though this office is about the state of Michigan, that I have more of a global view than a lot of people, even in the district where I live. I started our Cultural Connections group with moms because I really wanted to learn about their experiences in other countries and why America and living here was special for them, and about the struggles that their immigrant kids had being two people, one person in school and one person at home, and that I thought to try to bring kids to have pride in their cultures at school was very, very healthy for them. So I really care about rights for everyone, not rights for limited groups, limited genders, and limited ethnicities.
Thank you. And then you get 1 minute as a closing statement.
Which I am completely unprepared for. But I'm just very happy to be here today. I'm happy to see some of my friends here, and I would love to talk to those of you individually who might be in my district. Please come up to me. I will leave some lawn yard signs in the back, and I also have some literature. Oops, I'm not supposed to sell. But I would really love to talk to you about your experiences, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you. So a couple of announcements. We're going to have Kenan talk about another proposal, but something special about the general election that you could not do in the primaries, now you can vote on both sides of the aisle. So we are, a person who is voting, the ballot does not become null if you voted Republican and Democrats. You have the right to vote any side. So that's something that some people may not know. In August, we were, you're either voting Democrats or you're voting Republican. So I'm going to turn it over to another proposal.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So proposal 2, this one is about elections in the state of Michigan. Proposal 2 is a proposal to amend the state constitution to add provisions regarding elections. This proposed constitutional amendment would recognize the fundamental right to vote without harassing conduct, require military or overseas ballots be counted if postmarked by election day, provide voter rights to verify identity with photo ID or a signed statement, provide voter right to single application to vote absentee in all elections, require state-funded absentee ballot drop boxes and postage for absentee applications and ballots, provide that only election officials may conduct post-election audits, require 9 days of early in-person voting, allow donations to fund elections, which must be disclosed, and require canvass boards certify election results based only on the official records of votes cast. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenan. And now we would invite the representative for District 7.
Senate?
Yes, Senate. Yes.
All right, you get your 2-minute opening statement. Just introduce yourself, what you're running for, why we should vote for you.
Thank you. I'm Jeremy Moss, state senator, currently for the currently drawn 11th district, and I'm running in the newly drawn 7th district. So I represent the southern end of Oakland County now, and now the new district basically is that telegraph corridor. It actually starts in northwest Detroit, heads north through Southfield and Lathrop Village, which I represent now, Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, Franklin, actually reunites Bloomfield Hills and Bloomfield Township into one Senate district, goes north to Pontiac, Auburn Hills, Lake Angeles, and 3 precincts in Waterford. So it's that north-south corridor. I've done this a few times, you can tell. I started my journey in public service more than a decade ago. I'm a lifelong resident of this area and grew up in the city of Southfield, and 11 years ago, was elected as the youngest ever member of the Southfield City Council. And actually had a really good record working across the dais of my colleagues there, investing in our infrastructure. We made record investment in Southfield in our roads. We hired new public safety personnel, and as a result, crime declined across all categories during my tenure on the City Council. And then in 2014, I ran for the State House, where I served for 2 terms, and I've served this last 4 years in the State Senate during some of the most incredible crises that we've experienced over the last 4 years. But nonetheless, I've been effective, even as a Democrat in the minority, working to improve outcomes in education, in housing, and in jobs. And I've had 8 Senate bills signed into law across the aisle, and was named by a local publication that covers the Lansing outcomes as one of the Democrats of the year last year. So I'm running on that record. I'm very excited to be running for re-election, excited the prospect of hopefully flipping the state Senate to a Democratic majority with your help, but asking for your vote on November 8th in Senate District 7. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll take the first question. Small businesses are some of the hardest hit from the price increases we are seeing right now. What policies do you suggest or would you endorse which prioritize small businesses and help keep the middle-class economy afloat in the face of hedge funds and Wall Street groups?
That's very, very important. I mean, when we have seen this majority in the legislature over the last few years, there's been a huge tax shift from those who own mom and pop shops to those who have been these large corporate presence. And I think we need to provide more relief to those who are creating jobs at the local level, more incubators in local communities for those who have these ideas and want to start a small business. We've done this in Southfield. We've partnered with Lawrence Tech to create a small business incubator. You have an idea, it's a one-stop shop. We need to deliver more resources to those type of programs so that if somebody has an idea, wants to take their entrepreneurial skills to open up a small business, the path for them is easier. And I think that's where we should be investing. Instead, we've seen this huge tax shift where large corporations have been the biggest benefactors of some of our tax policies here in the state of Michigan. And I think we need to shift back to those who are looking to create on the ground level jobs.
Thank you. The next question, what are your plans to ensure that voting is accessible, safe, and that elections are respected?
Absolutely. So I've been a leader in the Michigan legislature on voter rights. We have seen kind of these conspiracy theories take a chokehold on our democracy, especially here in the state of Michigan. In the state Senate, Senate Republicans have introduced some 39 bills to change the way that you vote, based on nothing but a big lie of this conspiracy theory that there was fraud in our election. Everywhere from how you register to vote, to how you cast your ballot, to how your vote is counted. Instead, I've stood up against those bills that would strip you of your right to vote and have supported legislation to make voting more efficient, more fair, and to ensure that the results that are reported are accurate. I'll give something that just happened in the Senate this past week. So we all saw the chaos at the TCF Center as they were continuing to count absentee ballots on election night. If we had only gave clerks the ability to process those ballots before election night, we wouldn't have seen these gaps for people to fill the voids with some nonsense that they were spewing out there. States like Florida allow for the processing of ballots to take place 22 days before Election Day. And I pushed for that here in Michigan, but the Republican majority only gave clerks and administrators 26 hours before Election Day to process those absentee ballots. I'm still going to push for the processing of absentee ballots so that we can make sure that our results are reported as efficiently and accurately as possible.
Thank you for that answer. I'm going to ask a question related to zoning. How would you support the initiatives of Muslim communities to establish places of worship in their respective communities? How can the Muslim community count on you as an ally to help mitigate issues related to pushback and zoning enforcement for places of worship? Again, why should the Muslim community vote for you?
That's a really good question. So I actually served on a city council, and we obviously took the input from the community into account whenever we push forward anything on zoning. But I will also tell you this. I'm a member of a religious minority too. I'm the only Jewish member of the Michigan Senate. And religious freedom, especially for those who live and practice minority religions, is of the utmost importance to me. I live it in Lansing, where I do see those who place their religious values over everybody else. And so there's an incredibly important reminder every day that I serve in Lansing to protect those who are religious minorities and make sure that our Constitution, both the U.S. Constitution and the state Constitution, makes sure that government doesn't abridge your right to worship in the way that you so choose. And I would certainly support that at the local level as well.
Thank you. You get your 1-minute closing statement.
Great. So as I said, I have served as a Democrat in the minority over these last 4 years, and nonetheless have found success across the aisle in passing things that have improved the lives of my neighbors and the constituents that I serve. But one party has had control over Lansing over this last decade. And in the state Senate, Republicans have controlled the Michigan Senate for the last 40 years. So I am really trying to make sure that we are reclaiming a Democratic majority to the Michigan legislature so that we can progress on things that are important to those who share our values, including climate, including economy, including rights, including your freedoms. And so that is something that is an incredible value that I think is to this community and myself, and I'm hoping you'll consider the Democratic side of your ballot this November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Moss. We're going to invite up the candidate from House District 19.
Is the House District 19 here? Seeing that no one is coming to the podium, we'll invite the representative for District 9. Senate 9? Yeah, Senate 9. So we have a statement from the representative, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, if you want, I'll be happy to do my best to answer questions.
I would prefer that you just make the statement because she's not here, so we don't want anyone to speak on her behalf. Thank you.
Okay. So, hello, my name is Ann Erickson Galt. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Troy, and I'm here on behalf of State Senate District 9 candidate Padma Kupa. Padma is a two-term state representative representing Troy and Clawson. Before Padma has worked so hard over the last 4 years as a state representative, she was active in the community. She was a PTA mom. She was an interfaith leader. And she served on our Planning Commission and our Zoning Board of Appeals. Education has always been important to Padma, and it will continue to be one of her primary focuses when if she is elected to the Senate. Infrastructure, which we mentioned earlier, is also very important, especially maintaining clean water. Many of you saw the events in the news recently, once again reminding us of the tragedy that happened in City of Flint, and Padma will fight hard to make sure that doesn't happen in her district or any other district in the state. And also, I meant to also say Senate District 9 is Troy, all or parts of Troy, Rochester, Rochester Hills, Oakland Township, Shelby Township, and Sterling Heights. If you want more information about Padma, you can go to her website, electpadmakupa.com. There's also literature in the back, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has them, but otherwise, we'll let the other candidates speak.
Appreciate it, thank you. So, before we break for Maghrib, for the prayer of sunset, we're gonna have one more proposal shared with everyone, and then we'll have a 15-minute break if that's okay with everyone.
Thank you again, everyone. This is the last proposal, statewide proposal that will be on the ballot. This one is concerning reproductive rights. Proposal 3, a proposal to amend the state constitution to establish new individual rights to reproductive freedom, including right to make all decisions about pregnancy and abortion, allow state to regulate abortion in some cases, and forbid persecution of individuals exercising the established right. This proposed constitutional amendment would establish new individual rights to reproductive freedom, including the right to make and carry all decisions about pregnancy, such as prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, contraception, sterilization, abortion, miscarriage management, and infertility. Allow the state to regulate abortion after fetal viability, but not prohibit if medically needed to protect a patient's life or physical or mental health. Forbid state discrimination in enforcement of this right, prohibit persecution of an individual or a person helping a pregnant individual for exercising rights established by this amendment. Invalidate state laws conflicting with this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenan. We're going to break for Maghrib prayer, roughly 15 minutes upstairs.
And Gage, Michigan, I would like to welcome you all to the Journal Election Meet the Candidates event. My name is Yasser Zaidi. I am a member of the Community Engagement Committee. Many months of planning and hard work went into organizing this event and gathering the various candidates who are in attendance today. Thank you very much for coming. As I mentioned earlier, the goal of this event is to give our congregation a chance to participate in the civic society of Oakland County and state of Michigan. As Muslims, we have a duty to be civically engaged. Our religion teaches us to be involved in our local communities, to engage with people and promote goodness, as well as prevent harm and evil. What happens in Bloomfield Township, Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, West Bloomfield, Troy, Farmington, Pontiac, it affects us all. And just like every other American, our community is impacted by and cares about a diverse array of issues, including but not limited to infrastructure, healthcare, education, crime, taxes, and foreign policy. Our congregation wants to be heard on these issues, and for that we need to and must engage with the candidates, elected officials, and local and state governments. That is the purpose of this event. We all hopefully be joined by many candidates who are running for the State House, State Senate, and US Congress. There are a few things that I want to mention. I want to thank all the candidates who RSVP'd and took the time to attend today. Our community is very grateful for your time and willingness to engage with us. Before I hand off mic to the moderators, there are a few disclaimers I want to mention again, that this event is not an endorsement of any candidate. We are simply providing a platform for all the candidates to speak to our community. Second thing is this event is strictly non-partisan event. The MUC and Engage staff are attending and participating in a strictly non-partisan and non-endorsed capacity. And the third thing, if you have any material for your campaign, you can leave it in the back, and hopefully the people will be involved. Last thing I want to say that people who have not yet been registered to vote, there is a voting registration in the back. If somebody wants to do that, please help yourself. There is an individual sitting there, he can help that. From that, now I give it to our moderators to start the questioning. Thank you. Okay, this goes up here.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. My name is Sara Ahmed, and I'm moderating the second half. I'm attending Oakland Early College as a high school student, and I am very active in my community, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Peace be upon you all. I'm Rosanna Harris. I am a dentist by profession. I sit on the board of the Unity. I used to sit on the board of the Muslim Unity Center. I'm currently a co-chair of the Civic Engagement Committee, the committee who's hosting this event. We're very happy to have you here. This is one of our distinct events that we host at the Unity Center. This is something we're very proud of, to be engaged and have our community engaged. So thank you all for participating. A huge thank you also to our community member who showed up tonight and participating as well. We'll start tonight, second half of our event, with House District 5. So all the candidates running for that, if you can please take the stage. House District 5, yes, both of you please. There are seats enough for both. And we'll take turns.
All right, you will have 2-minute introductions, and then you will have 2 minutes for each question. There are 3 questions each, and then you will have a 1-minute conclusion. So we'll start off with the first question, with the introduction.
Hello, my name is Natalie Price. I am a current Berkeley City Council member. I'm a former high school English teacher. I'm a mom of 2 elementary kids, and I'm running for state representative in the new House District 5. This district includes most of Birmingham, some of Bloomfield Township, some of Southfield, Beverly Hills, Royal Oak, about half of Berkeley, half of Oak Park, and then Detroit all the way down to 96, roughly Schaefer to Southfield. This is a historic district, right? Not only has our Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission helped to end partisan gerrymandering, but we're also combining Oakland with Wayne County in these districts. The message of my campaign is when we wrap around and we give the most resources to the areas of our district that need them the most, we all rise up together. I advocate on behalf of an equitable model of funding education, protecting the environment, and creating intentionally safe and inclusive communities. Thank you.
My name is Paul Terrace. I'm a Republican running in the State House District number 5, which Natalie just told you what communities that's in. I grew up in Livonia. I graduated from the University of Michigan, received my MBA from Wayne State University, and for the last 30 years, I've owned and operated my own CPA firm, so I'm very well acquainted with the problems small businesses face. During that time, I volunteered at my church. I spent 6 years on the parish council and 4 years as their treasurer. As treasurer, I discovered that our church secretary was embezzling funds. I first consulted the priest and parish council. Then I collected the evidence and turned it over to Bloomfield Hills Police Department. Speaking of corruption, 4 years ago, our governor said, fix the damn roads. Today, it's fix the damn state. We saw the Michigan unemployment defrauded of millions of dollars. We've seen the governor live carefree lives in violation of her own executive orders while the citizens of Michigan were held in lockdown. So that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. The way we're going to do it, we're going to ask the question, and each of the candidates will have time to 2 minutes to respond. If you need me to repeat the question, please feel free to let me do so. The question: small businesses. Small businesses are some of the hardest hit from the price increases we are seeing. What policies do you suggest or would you endorse which prioritizes small businesses and help keep the middle class economy afloat in the face of the hedge funds and Wall Street groups? You can go ahead, Mr. Paul.
Well, during the pandemic, we saw the governor lock down small businesses while big box stores were allowed to remain open. And that's just not right. Currently, the MEDC and the Michigan Strategic Fund is spending over $250 million a year, and really it's just a slush fund to reward the politically well-connected and repay donors, big donors. Very rarely do you see these grandiose plans that they just landed this company or that company and they're going to invest $1 billion, create 2,000 jobs. Very rarely does that come to fruition. Just last year, Ford Motor Company announced that they were going to be building 2 electric vehicle campuses, one down in Tennessee and one in Kentucky. They didn't do Michigan. Why? Because our utility rates are too high. It's an EV campus requires 5 times more electricity than a traditional manufacturing plant. And we in Michigan have some of the highest utility costs and the most unreliable service. So we have to address those issues. We need to lower utility costs. We need to make it more reliable. I would be in favor of encouraging more competition among utility companies. Stop the monopoly that Consumers Energy and DTE has here in the state. And if we have a level playing field,
Thank you.
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes. Small businesses. Small businesses are some of the hardest hit from the price increases we are seeing. What policies do you suggest, or would you endorse which prioritize small businesses and help keep the middle-class economy afloat in the face of hedge funds and Wall Street groups?
Thank you. So, on Berkeley City Council, I have consistently supported initiatives, policies, and ordinances that support our small businesses. If those of you who know Berkeley, we're a Main Street community with many small independent businesses, and we became very creative during COVID, but very adaptable to help support our small businesses act in safe ways and secure the propane for the heaters, close down streets so that they could have more outdoor shopping and dining experiences. I think we need to be able to pivot to meet the needs of our small businesses. I also agree that corporations should not receive huge tax cuts when our small businesses and working families are suffering. Thank you.
All right, next question. What are your plans to ensure that voting is accessible, safe, and that elections are respected?
We know that when more people vote, our democracy gets stronger. I support the changes that were made back in 2018 so that we have no excuse absentee voting. We have polling drop boxes. I support the improvements on the next ballot so that we can make it easier for qualified legal voters to vote. I am very concerned about the misinformation out there about election fraud. I think that that is a direct attack on our democracy. I think our residents need to know that voting in our country is safe and secure, and they need to be empowered to be a part of the process. Thank you.
I am very perplexed that people say our current voting system is safe and secure. Last election, we saw our Secretary of State use out-of-date voter files to send out absentee ballots. These are people that had died, had moved out of state, and yet she used those voter files to send out absentee ballot applications, which now you have these applications floating around there that anybody who got their hands on could mail back and get a legal ballot. So we need to tighten up. Thank you for the gestures back there. We need to tighten up our voting requirements. There's nothing difficult about requiring an ID in order to vote. I mean, that's very basic. Back in 2010, I was a poll challenger at the Pontiac absentee ballot location. And I'll tell you, the people opening the ballots were not capable of verifying signatures on these absentee ballots. So that's very disturbing. And back then, I will also say that there was a young woman running the absentee ballots through the machine, and the count came up short, what she was expecting as far as total votes. And she mentioned that to me. So I asked the precinct captain about that. I had to ask her 3 times, and on the 3rd time, her response was, I heard you the first time, I just chose to ignore you.
Time is
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you. The last question, why should the Muslim community vote for you? Go ahead.
I believe that we need proven leaders to go to Lansing, ready to hit the ground running and do meaningful work that will have positive impacts on our district, on our region, on our state. I'm ready to do that. Some people have asked me, why? Why are you stepping up to run? With all that is going on, all the vitriol that's out there, why you? Why now? I feel very at home in many ways coming here because I know that public service, public engagement is a part of your faith as it is mine. I am a proud Unitarian member of Birmingham Unitarian Church. We engage in the South Oakland shelter along with Unity. I know that stepping up and helping others is something that we share as a priority, and that is what I pledge to do if elected to represent the new House District 5. Thank you.
I'm running because the state of Michigan is broken. We're no longer prioritizing our spending. We have to review programs. If they're not meeting the objective intention, why we put these in place in the first place, we have to get rid of them and try a new program. So I want to be more fiscally responsible. These are your tax dollars that the legislature and the governor are in charge of, and we need to be good stewards of your tax dollars. Again, I want a level playing field. My CPA firm, I have a number of small businesses, and they always ask me, where's my handout? And I will fight every day not to give the big businesses handouts when small businesses are not getting those. We need to improve the state, we need to improve our schools, we need to lower utility costs, improve our infrastructure. All these things will make Michigan more attractive for out-of-state businesses to locate here in Michigan without giving them big tax breaks.
Thank you. Now we will request a 1-minute conclusion.
I just want to thank everybody again for being here. I know this is a busy time of year, and I believe that engagement in this process is so important. Again, the more people that vote, the stronger our democracy. The more people who show up and listen and get to know your options and the candidates, the stronger our democracy. I challenge you to encourage your family, your friends, your grandkids, your neighbors to show up on November 8th or before with no excuses absentee ballot. It is so easy to vote in all the best ways. There are no excuses, and we need to do this for the protection of our democracy. So thank you for being here. Continue to be engaged.
Thank you for putting on this event and inviting all of my fellow candidates here. Earlier this evening, one of the candidates talked about repealing the pension tax. And that's a great idea, but I want to go a step further. For those elderly people, there's many people working as a greeter at Walmart, or maybe it's a widow who her sole income is from a small apartment building. Why should these people be taxed on their income when you're granting tax relief to people who are fortunate enough to have a pension? So I want equality, and if we're going to remove the pension tax, let's very seriously consider removing the tax on all elderly people. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll call now for House District 20 to be on the stage. And in the meantime, Kenan will be discussing a proposal. Go ahead, House District 20, you can take the stage.
Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone. Earlier we talked about proposals that will be on the ballot statewide. Now we're going to talk about a proposal that will be on the ballot in Oakland County. So Oakland County has a public transportation millage. Unfortunately, it's a little long, but I will abbreviate it as best as I can. I encourage you to look it up as soon as you get home. This millage, so this is a public transportation millage. This millage would replace an expiring millage leveled by the Oakland County Public Transportation Authority, supporting the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transportation, SMART, and fund replacement of other local public transportation millages. Thank you.
All right, you will have a 2-minute introduction. There will be 3 questions. You'll have 2 minutes each, and then you'll have a 1-minute conclusion. You can start your 2-minute introduction now.
Awesome, thank you. My name is Noah Arbit. I'm running in Michigan's 20th House District, which is all of West Bloomfield Township, Eastern Commerce Township, and the cities of Orchard Lake, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and 1 precinct in Bloomfield Township, which happens to be this precinct. So I'm very, very proudly running to represent the Unity Center in my district. I am born and raised in West Bloomfield, grew up there, lived there my entire life, and yesterday I was knocking doors in Sylvan Lake, and a man who was not from my party asked me, where do I get, the call to service? And I said, I think it's from my faith. I'm Jewish, and growing up in West Bloomfield, it's impossible not to feel so inspired by the diversity in our community, which is just an amazing place to grow up because you're surrounded by people from every walk of life. And I think for me, why I'm running is, I have been sick and tired of our community for the past 20 years being gerrymandered and represented by people who I didn't think represented our interests very well. And for the first time in 20 years, we actually have the opportunity to have someone who represents us with faith and fidelity. And to me, I know what it's like to be part of a minority community, and I know what it's like to feel not represented. Just a few weeks ago, or last week, we had an issue where the school count day fell on Yom Kippur. And I feel that especially now, when we have minority communities in the line of fire, it's so important that we have representatives who actually understand what it's like. And I'm not saying that I understand 100% the Muslim experience, but coming as I do from my own experiences, I hope to be able to use that to represent the Muslim community just as relentlessly as I would the community that I'm from. And so I hope to earn your support and look forward to answering more of your questions.
Thank you. The question is, inflation continues to hurt millions of Americans. Price increases from groceries to raw materials are bleeding people financially, while wages remain stagnant. What can be done to reduce the impact of inflation on American homes?
Yeah, I think we all know that inflation is hurting so many families in so many communities from right here in Oakland County and across the state and across the country. When it comes to the state legislature, that's not something that we have a very large province over. But what I think that we can be doing is making sure that we're making robust economic policy, as mentioned before, supporting small businesses, cutting red tape to ensure that businesses are able to new businesses are able to be open and to thrive, and that we are attracting talent. I think one of the issues that we struggle with really in Michigan is talent retention. And we talk about this issue of brain drain, and I know I'm young, and I have so many of my friends who are living in Chicago or New York or Los Angeles or DC, and how do we make sure that we are building a Michigan where every person can thrive, and where young people like me can stay and build a family? That's the challenge, right? And obviously this inflation issue hurts because young people can't afford to buy homes because you have the rate so high. But I think this is hopefully something that will be addressed by monetary policy and at the federal level. But I think what we need to be working on is how can we make sure that this region in Metro Detroit is attractive to people. Obviously, we have the weather and a number of other things that we can't control, but we can implement policies that are going to attract businesses. And that's what I would hope to do, and I hope that I know some of my colleagues who are here will hope to build a Michigan and pass policies that will support that vision. I think investing in our education is a big one. Michigan has fallen to 38th in the state, 38th in the country out of 50. If we can't make sure that our kids have the resources and opportunities to go as far as their talents and ambitions will take them, why is anyone going to want to move here to raise their families? So I think we have to look at these long-term issues of how we are managing Michigan.
Thank you. Next question.
What, you don't want to give my opponent a shot?
All right. How would you support the initiatives of Muslim communities to establish places of worship in their respective communities? How can the Muslim community count on you as an ally to help mitigate issues related to pushback and zoning enforcement for places of worship as our community grows?
Yeah, well, growing up in West Bloomfield, I remember an issue with the vacant Maple Elementary in Farmington Hills School District in West Bloomfield, that there was an attempt to open a mosque there, and there was a lot of real racism and prejudice that erupted in the community, and I think that was probably more than 10 years ago at this point, but I still remember that, and I think how reprehensible and repulsive it is. The idea that, people can't feel safe to practice their faith, and, that's something that I am, incredibly passionate about. I worked at the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, and one of the things I learned when I was there is that Michigan is experiencing a rise in hate crimes that is unprecedented. Over 200% year-on-year rise in hate crimes. And as someone who knows, what it's like to be part of a community that's targeted also for hate crimes, that is part of why I'm actually running, is to make sure that Michigan is a national leader. We go from national laggard to national leader on the issue of hate crimes prevention, intervention, and prosecution, which is just part of, the work that I want to do to make sure that, minority communities are represented. And it's not just minority communities, but every person in this community, every community, can exist without facing prejudice and discrimination and persecution, right? And we've seen far too long, a concomitant rise in Islamophobia in this country. And I think it takes leaders, and I know that I will, as well as many of my fellow candidates here, will relentlessly speak out about Islamophobia. Because that is so important. So, you can absolutely count on me to be an ally in making sure that every community, including the Muslim community, can be able to worship in our community in Oakland County and can build new congregations as the community grows.
Next question. Michigan is voting on Proposal 2 this fall, the Promote the Vote proposal seeking to enshrine the new expansions to voter accessibility in the Michigan's Constitution. What are your thoughts on Proposal 2?
I absolutely support Proposal 2. I will be voting for Proposal 2 and encouraging all of my friends, family members, constituents to also be voting for Proposal 2. I think we are at a real hinge moment in the history of our country, where we know that our democracy really is on the precipice, and it's up to us. Each of us, individually and collectively, has the ability to save it. And I think one of the amazing things about being in Michigan is that we actually have done the work to put on the ballot a number of initiatives, both in 2018 and now in 2022, to make sure that we are strengthening our democracy against this tide of the big lie, right? And I think, as members of, the Muslim community, I also, obviously as a member of the Jewish community, we know well that when democracy falters, our communities are the first to be under assault, because minority groups are always the first to be, I think of when Donald Trump was first elected and how one of his initiatives was to, the Muslim ban. And where were we in terms of, we need to be standing up for the Muslim community, but every other community. I'm also a member of the LGBT community. And for me to feel that, communities that I'm part of are under assault, have a target on my back, it's very, very powerful and very potent to feel that. And to be able to say, no, I'm here, and I'm going to represent my community, and I'm going to represent every person in this community and make sure that we are building a democracy where every person is reflected, where every person has rights, where every person is able to go as far as their potential will take them, right? That's what we want to do. We want to build a Michigan that cares, build a Michigan that enables all of us to reach our potential as who we are, right?
Thank you. You can proceed with your 1-minute conclusion now.
Sure. Well, I'm so grateful to be here to participate in this forum. You know, I have in my life, I've worked in interfaith communities. I mean, this is far from my first time at Unity, and I really consider myself an ethnic constituency organizer, and there's nothing I love more than going to different communities in our area and learning about the issues that matter and really feeling like you're equipped to represent people, right? Because I think we all know what it's like to be a community that either feels targeted or feels that we're left behind. And I believe in listening, learning, and leading in that order. And that is exactly what I will do when it comes to the Muslim community. Because again, like this issue of that I think about in terms of hate crimes, like that's an issue that impacts so many people in our community, especially in West Bloomfield. You think of the Jewish community, Chaldean community, Muslim community, Asian community, Black community. Every community that exists here cares about this issue. And so for me to be here saying I'm going to be an advocate for this, okay.
Thank you so much.
I mean, the second question, it's basically the same thing, so.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
We appreciate it. You can step down.
Oh,
We're
okay.
all done. Okay, Kina.
Hello, everyone. In the interest of giving more time to our candidates, I'm going to group up the next several proposals. These are local proposals, and so they depend on where you live. And I will just inform you of them. I encourage you, though, to look up the details of these proposals when you get home. So if you live in Bloomfield Township, there are 2 proposals, local proposals on the ballot, a safety path millage renewal and a senior services millage renewal and increase. If you live in Birmingham, there is a proposed amendment to one of the city charters. In the city of Troy, there is a proposal for the Troy School District. And in West Bloomfield, there's a local school district operating millage restoration proposal. I encourage you all to look them up once you get home and be well read and educated on these local proposals. They impact your community a lot more than you might think. Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right, we will call up District 19 if they are here. Okay, thank you. Now we would like to call up Senate District 13.
I would also like to have the extra time for my...
All right. You will have a 2-minute introduction. You will have 3 questions, 2 minutes each, and you will have a 1-minute conclusion. You may proceed with your 2-minute introduction.
Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you with you today. Still one of my favorite parts of the community. I am now the current senator for Senate District 12, and sadly will lose Bloomfield Hills or Bloomfield Township as part of my new district. District 13, which has Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, West Bloomfield, about half of Farmington Hills, Walled Lake, about a third of Commerce, all of Novi, Northville Township and Northville, and Plymouth Township and Plymouth. So it's a little bit different and exciting to be a part of a new communities, but I will miss people here. I will continue to serve this community the whole time I'm in office and probably beyond that, simply because we've fallen in love with each other over the last 4 years. So thank you for that. I did run for office originally. I'm a computer engineer, and I got very involved in public education. And I ran for office in order to try to work on solving some of what I saw as pretty severe issues. I worked on them as a volunteer and then felt that working through the system in Lansing, through the public education system, that I would be able to have a bigger impact. I did do that. There's been big successes so far. Also in our work in climate change mitigation and building resilience, we have had good success there. Much more to do in both of those circumstances. I also have learned a great deal more than I ever expected in understanding the issues around justice and equity across our systems. And so that has become a huge part of my work and will will really define the next 4 years.
Thank you. With recent news of oil price wars in OPEC and gas prices are on the table once again, Michiganders' pockets are suffering. What would you suggest be done, or what initiative would you endorse to ensure Michiganders' money is well spent and in the right places?
Well, that's appropriate for me. Most of my work in the Senate today is in the budget space. Most of it will probably be in the budget space for the next 4 years. So that's a very good question for me. I'm very familiar with how we spend our money. And I will say, first of all, that we are very responsible in how we do the budgeting and how we manage fiscally in Michigan. We have a constitutional requirement to have a balanced budget every year. So that's the first thing. But having to do with the high prices of gas, you know, the challenges of the inflation and the supply chain issues, this is a global circumstance that we're in. So the issues that we see with the high cost of gasoline, any kind of oil or petroleum-based products, and inflation overall is a global issue, having primarily to do with a couple of things. The supply chain challenges from COVID, but the price gouging, the grotesque price profit-taking in the global petroleum industry is just outrageous. The profits just this year alone already surpassed $300 billion for those global entities. So our challenge is global. I know that we're working on that. Here in Michigan, we are focused on building up our own business environments and our own infrastructure to be able to support more of those kinds of businesses here in Michigan and not rely so much on anything that comes in from foreign entities where we can't control the profit taking. So everything we do to move energy here to Michigan, energy production here to Michigan, the better off our economy will be overall. In general, we will carefully manage the money that we do bring in. We will continue to look for opportunities, as you've seen a couple of times in the last 4 years, depending on your income bracket, and many times possibly refunds for different things, including the senior tax repeal. We will try again to do that in the next 4 years, depending on the leadership.
Thank you. Next question. Michigan is voting on Proposal 2 this fall, the Promote the Vote proposal seeking to enshrine the new expansions to voter accessibility in the Michigan Constitution. What are your thoughts on Proposal 2?
I'm so excited about Proposal 2, and I would wager that some of you were part of getting those signatures onto the ballot so we can vote on that this time. We really do need to protect our voting rights. This is a fundamental definition of democracy, is to be able to make sure that we all get to vote and that our votes count. And there isn't anything more important than that. If we lose that, we will then no longer be a democracy, and the rest of the conversation almost doesn't matter. There is an attack on our voting rights in Michigan. If we do not pass and protect our voting rights in the Constitution, we could very well be left in a situation, there's literally a bill on the table where the legislature, the Michigan legislature could decide who wins every federal election. So no matter how you vote, no matter how you vote, no matter how you vote, they can overturn that election at their whim. And it doesn't matter who's in. It could be our side, it could be the other side, it doesn't make any difference. We are the people. We do not want any government entity like the state legislature deciding that our votes don't matter. Number one, that's what the Constitution is for, so we protect in our Constitution, we don't have to worry about this anymore. So we are lucky to have it. I thank everyone who signed, everyone who carried petitions and got signatures. Thank you for that, because this is the most important thing on the table right now.
Last question. Why should the Muslim community vote for you?
Thank you. So first of all, I will say that the work that I've done in public education and that we will continue to do in building the budget for public education and making sure that our kids in our schools have, number one, adequate funding. We still don't even reach adequate. We've done a good job increasing over the last 4 years, but we are still not at what research tells us is required for the base level of funding for our students. And then secondly, we are a long way from equitable funding and making sure that students have what they need to their needs, so that we take care of every student, make sure that every student has the same opportunity to succeed no matter where they live and no matter what their needs are. That's our responsibility. We are going to continue to move that forward, and that's a really important project for this next year. The other things that are critical for me, I am the leader for the gun violence prevention work in the State House and Senate. And that is critically important for us to make sure that we do some steps forward to help reduce the gun violence that we're seeing in our state. And there are known resolutions for this that we can put in place if we have the right people in office. So that's a critical piece. I also have work over and over again. Now it's in water justice, in environmental justice, in criminal justice, in economic justice. The work that we're doing across the board has the opportunity to drive us forward generations in establishing an equitable and equal justice format for everything we do in our government if we get the right people in office. I'm one of those people. Thank you.
Thank you. You can proceed with your 1-minute conclusion now.
Okay, well, thank you all again for being here today and for inviting me here today. The last thing I will say is that, having you here, for me, one of the reasons I ran for office the first time was that I could not reach my state senator for over a year. Many times, called, wrote letters, sent emails, no response. This kind of engagement, this has been interesting for me to reach out to people and surprise them across the district, to have that kind of someone that's there. I actually won an award in 2020, out of the blue, no one heard of it. It's the National Award for Top 10 Legislators Most Accessible to Their People. And that's a big part of what drives us. This is a representative government. You should all vote for people that you see, that listen to you. And thank you for listening today.
Thank you so much. Can we call up House District 54?
I just want to say that Rosemary Bayer and I did not agree on dress code today. Just happened.
Thank you both for being here tonight. You'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Feel free to talk about your district, who you are, and why you're running. And share your insight with the community. You can go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight. And I really like the name of this facility, Unity. And I think as a nation and as a state and as a community, unity should be our #1 goal. We have gotten so far off track, and I would like to see more unity within our parties, within our government, within our families, within our schools. And so thank you for having us here tonight so we can be more united. I'm Donnie Steele. Currently, I'm the treasurer of Orion Township. I'm very fiscally conservative. I have done an excellent job as treasurer. I've been there for 6 years. Prior to that, I was a trustee for Orion Township. I'm a lifelong resident of Oakland County in Orion. I went to Orion schools. I've been married 31 years. I have 2 boys, both in universities in the state of Michigan, state colleges. I was a business owner prior to being in government. I was a realtor, a broker, and an owner, so I understand how hard it is to run small businesses, and I understand how hard it is to get things done in a government, and my goal has been to get more things accomplished in our government that's not getting done properly. So that is why I chose to run. I see that there's so many resources that are not being utilized appropriately, and I think that good leadership is needed. I believe I am one of those good leaders, and I want to be able to use our resources more appropriately in our government. I ran because I wanted a safety path along our road, which was busy, and I got involved because I wanted a safety path to bring my kids to their local school safely. And that's how I got involved in government, and I realized there was money in the bank and it wasn't being spent, and I was determined to get that safety path. It took me 10 years, but there's a safety path.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shadia Martini. I'm running for the 54th district. I was born and raised in Aleppo, Syria, under brutal dictatorship. I studied architectural engineering at the University of Aleppo, taught at the university for 4 years. While at the university, I received a scholarship from the Austrian government, spent a year in Vienna doing research at the University of Economics, the Wirtschaftsuniversität in Vienna. From there, I had the chance to come to the United States, and I grabbed that opportunity. After coming here, I went back to school and got my MBA from the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Ross, before it was Ross, and went on to start my own business. I'm a real estate broker and a builder, so I own 3 small businesses. Why I'm running? You leave dictatorships, but the fear that they instill in you never leaves you. In 2011, a revolution started in Syria, and I watched on TV young men and women on the streets of many cities and towns in Syria calling for freedom. I was sitting here in a free country, not able to talk because of the fear that was instilled in me, because my parents were back home and I was worried for their safety. But I could not stay silent for too long. I started advocating on behalf of the Syrian people since 2011. I'm currently a board member of the Syrian American Council. And that's when I discovered my voice and decided to use it to help my community here, the community that welcomed me with open arms 30 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. First question. Small businesses are some of the hardest hit from the price increases we are seeing. What policies do you suggest, or would you endorse, which prioritize small businesses and help keep the middle-class economy afloat in the face of hedge funds and Wall Street groups? You may go ahead.
As I just mentioned, I own 3 businesses. I own a construction company, a real estate brokerage, and I own a medical spa that my partner runs. So I know exactly what needs to be done to help small businesses. Small businesses are really the backbone of our economy in Michigan. They employ the most number of people, and they help the most number of people. We need to help our small businesses, whether when it comes to red tape, programs, taxes. There's a lot of room for help for small businesses, but a person like me who knows firsthand what happens is the right person to do the job.
Thank you.
So there was an opportunity to, in the last legislation, to reduce income taxes, and it was vetoed, I believe, more than once, to reduce income taxes for the people, the residents, and that would have really helped, I believe, small businesses. There was also an initiative to reduce the gas prices, a vacation gas price tax reduction, and that was also vetoed as well, too. And both of those would have helped small businesses and the economy and the residents that live here. Also, there was an opportunity to have reciprocal licenses for if you were a nurse and you were licensed in Florida, that you could be licensed in the state of Michigan. And that was allowed during COVID, but after COVID, again, it was repealed. And so you're not encouraging other businesses to come here. The income taxes are higher, and the energy tax is higher, which was discussed earlier. I don't know at the state level why we are not having a vision of how we should run our state from the top down, make it more accessible to everybody at the top by having lower taxes, lower energy prices, entry into business, and to attract not only people outside, but to keep the people here that want to live and raise their families here in the state of Michigan.
Thank you. What are your plans to ensure that voting is accessible, safe, and that elections are respected? Donnie, you can go. Thank you.
So I work at Orion Township. I'm the treasurer. My department sits directly next to the clerk's department. We have seen thousands and thousands, literally thousands and thousands of absentee ballots come across our desk. We have probably 10 people working there processing these ballots every single day. We have drop boxes in the front of the building. We have drop boxes in the building. We have drop boxes on the side of the building. We are open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. You can drop it off. You can vote at the counter. You can vote for 12 hours on ballot day. There's 15 precincts. They're all within a mile of being able to vote. You can mail in your ballots right from your couch, right to your mailbox, and right into the facility. So the access is available. After 2018, voter absentee anytime has opened up so many opportunities for people to vote easily. I don't believe in changing the Constitution because we don't know what our future may bring about electronic voting. And so to change the Constitution forever and ever and how we vote, I don't think is good policy. And I think still, as mad as everybody's been about how the government is right now, only 30% of the people voted in our last election in August. And I think that the issue is not ease of voting. I think the issue is people aren't educated. I don't think that we're educating our kids at kindergarten on how the civic duty is and what the policies are and what they can do to go out and vote. And I think that we need to start educating our kids better to have them be a part of the process. I think that they should all go door to door with people like me to understand how hard it is at a grassroots level to run for office.
Democracy relies on voting. Without voting, there is no democracy. Coming from a country where voting was being presented with one page with their leader's picture in the center and a yes or a no, with 4 Secret Service police around you looking over your shoulder to see what you're voting, I understand how important voting is and how precious voting is. I happen to look at things that we take for granted in this country from a completely different vantage point because I know what's on the other side of the fence. There has been intimidation of voters. That is proven. We need to make voting more accessible. We need to encourage people to vote because without voting, there is no democracy. And I support Proposal 2. We need it. We need to enshrine voting rights in the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question. Why should the Muslim community vote for you?
I am a Muslim, and I believe representation matters. When I went to Lansing for a meet and greet, I met Representative Ibrahim Ayyash. Ibrahim Ayyash is of Yemeni descent, and I asked him, Ibrahim, how many Muslim representatives do we have? He said, it's me, just me. As a community, we need someone who understands what we go through and what we need. And again, representation matters. And that's why you need to vote for someone who can represent your interests.
One nation under God. We all come from different sects of the world. My grandfather was Polish, my grandmother was German, or great-grandmother, and I believe I'm Polish-German. And I believe that we all come from different, that's what makes America so great. We're a melting pot from everybody all over the world, and that we're one nation under God. And I believe that everybody should be treated equally, regardless of where we come from. Why should the Muslim community vote for me? Because my values are pure. My intent is pure. I worry about the same things that you do, about your children, about safety, about good education, about good government. We don't have good government right now. I believe I'm the best person to be able to provide good government for Christians, for Muslims, for Jewish people, for everybody. One nation under God, and I believe that I'm that person that sees everybody purple and green and what is best for everybody as a community and as a nation. And I believe that selflessly is how we should serve, and that's how I would serve.
Now you each have 1 minute of closing statements, and we'll start with you, Donnie.
Sorry, I don't mean to be so intent and emotional, but that's how I feel. I have been in government for 10 years. I was in small business for 20 years, and I lived here in the community for 58 years. And so I believe I have the most qualifications, I have the most experience, I have the most passion to be able to serve everybody in this community. I see what we need firsthand. We have all these resources, and they're not getting appropriated properly. I believe I have that ability to do that because of my past experience to get in there and start running. I bought 10 pair of tennis shoes, and I'm ready.
I'm not a career politician. I'm a small business owner. I have been in business for a long time. I'm not only an experienced business owner, I also studied business in one of the best universities in this country. So I feel like I am the most equipped to represent this community and to help push our economy forward. Thank you so much for being here, all of you. You can go to my website at martini2022.com, and I hope I can earn your votes.
I want to thank everybody for showing up, especially the candidates, taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. And I really want to thank my community for showing up. I know we have videotape, we are going to send it to the people, but really thank you. I also want to thank Engage for helping us put this event together. Thank you for the moderators, for everybody. Thank you, have a great evening. Thank you.